There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert, Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Western Montana based for local and regional travel within Montana borders. Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus. I thought maybe we should change this to Mikey's mustache instead of riding with Ryder. Mustache is looking so good. No, back with, I feel like I've seen you all the time now. I didn't see you forever. Now I've seen you like 2 times in 3 days. So good to see you, buddy. How you
I
doing?
know, man. I know. Yeah, football season. I love it. Always good to see you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you know you've reached a certain level of maturity as a man when you can rock a mustache and it looks great instead of, ironic. So good, good, good.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. My wife actually likes it, so it's gonna stick around for a little bit.
That's all that really matters,
Yep,
right? See, my
yep,
wife's
yep,
only kind of okay with the beard. She thinks it's okay. Not
yep.
not great.
Not great.
I told her you should see how fat my face looks when I don't have a beard, though. Uh, so, speaking of being old, Montana State, they lose worst margin of victory since 2008, which is a team that you were on, I think, when you went to Kansas State. But there's a lot of caveats, and we're going to get into some of these caveats. But I'll let you just start. What did you think of just the game on Saturday?
Oh, we looking back at what we talked about, Colter, there just has to be the margin of error is so small, and so that was apparent pretty quickly. And I mean, even just the first play from scrimmage, uh, there's just a reality to the talent level, and that's not a knock against Montana State. That Coach Vegan said it pretty politically correct and kindly, and you saw it there live. But that first play from scrimmage, it was fit perfectly. It was a simple zone play. Guy cuts back. There was a good crack replace on defense. Caden Dowler has a one-on-one. Theoretically, you make that tackle, and it's just in what would probably be a knockdown play for 10 yards, and all of a sudden it's a 26-yard run to begin with. You're like, there's just a different talent level there. You can't have it. You got to have the ball bounce your way a little bit. You could see the talents discrepancy as far as the offensive and defensive line in particular. Um, so you could see that kind of a bummer, but at the same time, you saw some good flashes. I think love to see the competitiveness. Justin Lamson, he's got some fire. Yeah, that was fun to see. I think he threw some nice balls. Um, you know, had his mobility moments, which were good. Good to see Taco compete. Um, and I just think the quit was never there, which was nice. Sometimes you can roll over in those games and it can get really, really out of hand. And of course, it was a little bit of a butt whooping, but to finish with a score, I think that's nice. So all in all, I haven't seen much from an injury report, Coulter. So you could correct me if I'm wrong. I think they came out of there decently healthy, which is important with this high stakes tilt here on Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll get to some of the. They did get a couple guys that got dinged, but we'll see what that happens. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But there was the on Oregon's second touchdown drive, they threw that little tight end flare to Kenyon Sadiq, and
Yeah, and it was
I mean Carson Williams. He's in his first college football game, and he's
yeah.
coming down at this guy, and he showed fearless. He gets his head across the bow, he pops him, and he just
Yep,
pops
yep.
right off. And at that moment, you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, one of these guys is a really good college football player who was a great athlete in high school, and he's going to be a good player in the FCS, and he actually might even be a guy that gets opportunities to play at the FBS if it goes well. The other guy
Yep.
is the number one tight end in the country who's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL. You're like sitting there like this. These two things are not created the same. By the way, I've seen a lot of FBS teams up close and personal. I think Kenyon Sadiq is the most physically intimidating player I've ever seen
Mhm.
live. I mean, that guy is, I mean, he's like 6'4", 260 with like 1% body fat. I've never seen a guy that looks like him
Yeah.
that touches the ball. I mean, he's right up there with, I was trying to think of some other guys. He's right up there with Kayvon Thibodeau, who was a high draft pick from
Hmm.
Oregon. Um, I mean, there's other guys certainly that you could think of, but man, I mean, Unbelievable. Regardless, that was my biggest takeaway. So many people have asked me, "Oh, did you regret driving over there to watch a 46-point game?" The answer is absolutely no. Twofold. One, that's one of the great stadiums in college football. I got sideline pass. I'm walking down the tunnel. I'm looking at this. I'm like, this is the Coliseum. Like, this is crazy, man. It's a sea of
Yeah.
yellow and green. That in itself is pretty cool. But the second part is it just was so affirmative to what I have thought I believe to be true. Now I totally believe it to be true, and that is that in the NIL world, if you don't have any limits to the amount of money you can spend on teams, we're only talking 10, 12, 14, 15 teams. If you don't have any money,
Tops, yeah.
if you don't have any limits, though, you will extend the gap between you and the rest of the country so fast. And that's the part that was so stunning is that when Dan Lanning, I mean, he actually called off the Dogs pretty early. They went with their number twos after they scored, I guess it would have been their sixth touchdown. Well, who's the backup quarterback? Well, he was a five-star recruit. He was the number two quarterback recruit in the country last year. They get down to their fifth string running back. I'm looking at this kid on the roster. This guy was the number one running back in the state of California at Mater Dei High School. I mean, he's the number five running back recruit in the country. He's a five-star guy, and that's your fifth string running back. So that's to me the biggest difference. It used to be you go play Oregon. Okay, they take out Justin Herbert and Kayvon Thibodeau. Next guys, still pretty good. Like guys that would be really good players in the Big Sky Conference and even probably
Yeah.
good players at other FBSs. Get to the third guys, you probably have some guys that are from around the area. A guy that's from Eugene or Salem or whatever, and they're pretty good, but like they're not that much better than the Montana State or Montana guys. Now you get to the third, the fourth. There isn't guys that are on the roster that aren't five-star recruits or four-star recruits. That's the part that's crazy, and it was so affirming to see that. So then I'm in my head like, okay, is this good for college football? I think no. But then I thought to myself, would I like this if I was a fan of this team or this league? And I thought to myself, probably yes, if I am Oregon or Ohio State or Penn State, because when they play each other, now you're talking about like the biggest wars you could possibly have because there's so much talent
Yeah.
on the field.
Yeah. 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 I mean, but think about it this way too, Coulter. You and I talked about this last week. It's totally the economies of scale here. So I got to be careful on how I say this. But if you look at the FCS football, that is Montana State. So if you were to look at Montana State just from like the FCS level, they are the Oregon version of that. Just by comparison, if you were to look at, uh, maybe like I don't even know, like one of the Southland teams that doesn't have good funding, doesn't get a lot of support, has the thought of NIL is not even like, I mean, they're trying, but they have nothing,
Nothing, right?
right? And then you look in that in comparison with Montana State, where you're talking just FCS,
Right.
like Montana State is going to be the one, they're going to get the transfers. They're not, they're going to get the
Right.
FBS transfers. They're looking for a good place to go. They're not going to Nickel State, right? Maybe they are. Maybe they're going, but some of those other schools, they're not going there, right? So Montana State is actually kind of has in the FCS world, and Montana is the same way. There's only probably about five or six of them. Where if you're an FBS drop down and you're looking for NIL and you're looking for a good place to go and a good fan support and a good
Yes.
education, there's only like five or six of those schools at the FCS level.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any town pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
No doubt. And that's where I just hope and pray that this thing re-stratifies. Because there was a whole bunch of other college football games I watched this weekend where you're watching, like a Kansas State, for example, and you're like, wow, Montana State could totally be in a game with Kansas State. Or,
Yeah.
like North Dakota State would beat Kansas State. You know what I mean? Like, or you go watch any of the other that are sort of like lower half of the Power Five or the MAC.
Yep.
I watched Wisconsin, Miami of Ohio on Friday night. Like I'm sitting there thinking that's not that far away from the Cats or the
No.
Grizz, right? So then you're thinking, okay, wouldn't this just be more fun if I mean, the guys in the press box told me that Oregon has a $40 million payroll this year. Like that, That's like more than Montana State's entire. That's not like that is more than Montana State's entire athletic department budget. So these two things are not the same. So I just think it will be more fun when the Oregons and Penn States of the world, the Texases of the world, split off and say, hey, we're pro. This is pro. Let's go. Let's get a salary cap. Let's regulate this stuff. Let's pay everybody because they're already doing it. And then you have
Yep.
a new tier of Division One with playoffs and stuff. That's where I think this thing settles in. And then I think college football is back in the biggest way because I think so many people will love that second level where the guys aren't making millions of dollars.
Yep. Yep. And how do you ever, the toothpaste is out of the tube. So how do you ever, how do you take any of this stuff back? I think the only solution is something like you just articulated. And I don't, that's way above my pay grade. But I will tell you this is what makes FCS football so great. That's what makes these games like this weekend so special. I'm so excited to see what, South Dakota State shows up with, and they've had a lot of turnover and but um, it makes FCS football so special because yes, it's got the NIL. Yes, you're having to pay some of your players, but there's just some middle ground that's been found. And there is no middle ground with Oregon or Texas or Notre Dame. There just isn't. And so it just makes FCS football all that much more appealing in my eyes.
Well, that's the last thing I'll add on this, and then we can actually talk more about the Cats in this upcoming matchup. Is that that's where it does get sort of so like theater of the absurd. Is if you are one of the 10 that's going to spend 35 to 40 million, guess what? 9 of you aren't going to win the national championship. So then, how's that feel? Like Oregon spent this
Yeah.
much money last year to get their asses kicked by Ohio State in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, right? So
Yep.
like
Yep.
it's a crazy world to live in where you can spend like that and you are so much better than everybody else. But then, I mean, that's why Oregon's pouring all this in, right? Because they're in the same
Yep.
league, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State now. So you better put up or shut up. So, anyways, you mentioned you like Lamson. I know that you can tell they like Lamson a lot too. I mean, Vegan brought him out for the press conference last week, brought him out for the press conference this week. He has not, minced words at all. He has been like, "This is our guy. We think this guy is awesome." He said after the game, he's a competitor, and we can go places with that. What did you see that you liked out of him, both just operationally, but also just intangibly?
I feel like he stepped into some throws and took some shots. Wasn't overly risky with the football. But as a defensive guy, I love the fact that there was the third down and he put his head down and ran somebody over. I just out of principle, that's awesome. And so do you want him doing that every single down? Absolutely not. But you could tell his teammates liked him. I think you've been on teams where um, quarterbacks maybe don't have that connection with their guys, and to me, you could see that his guys like him, and I think that comes with some of the physicality that he plays with. He's got a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, really, really competitive. So I think he liked the mobility. Again, as a defensive guy, anytime you have to go against a quarterback that has the ability to run, it just stretches you a lot on defense. So the fact that he's a threat with his feet is a big deal. I felt like he threw some balls into some decent windows. Loved that he was capitalizing on some of those crossing routes. Pretty wild to see a Bobcat receiver with 12 catches. That was crazy. Taco, seeing him have a good day. So I think there's a lot to like there. But the fact of the matter is, it's hard to see much. It's hard to see much in those games.
Yeah.
Offensive and defensive fronts, like it's such a mismatch, and like couldn't even run the football. I mean, those guys on the defensive front for Oregon, like you said, 5-star across the board. Some of the most explosive guys you'll see. Though a lot of them will be draft picks. That's hard to really even compare. So the real measuring stick is going to be this week, and you get to come back home and really curious to see what South Dakota State looks like. Talking about losing a bunch of guys, and Coach Jackson has done a really good job. Alma mater, a ton of pride there. Curious to see what type of team they have. I know a lot of the Big Sky folks probably are excited to see what they did to Sacramento State, me included, after that AD there at Sac State had so many, poo-poo things to say about FCS football and the whole thing. And all the talk, and they scored 3 points. So just fitting. So it'll be a good team, good outfit coming to Bozeman.
Yeah. Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective has partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more. Yeah, man. There's a lot of people around the Big Sky that were smiling after this.
Totally.
This guy goes off and says, Big Sky is nothing but JV football. We deserve to be in it. It's like, bro, you guys have won. I shouldn't go down this road, but like, you've won 2 playoff games in the history of your school, man. Like, look, read the room, man. Like, Montana State have multiple national championships each. Like, what are we even talking about here? And then you go on up to Brookings and get 7 first downs in the entire game. Like, you talk shit, you get hit. That's what happens.
Totally. And I was just, and I told my dad that. I'm like, that's just we were talking about. Like, that's just unbelievable. I can't believe all of that. And then the go offense and three points.
So, okay, but Montana State, though, because they were sort of so overwhelmed, they didn't run a lot of stuff. Vegan even talked about that. He said, we didn't really get to a lot of our stuff because we were kind of, they're down 24.
On your heels.
Yeah, you're on your heels, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you were.
Is it a game planning advantage, though, coming into this week? Because, like, they didn't really blitz or anything like that. Like, they didn't show any sort of coverages or anything, I didn't think, in that Oregon game.
Yeah, I think you are playing from behind, and so you're just like, look, we gotta keep the ball in front of us and keep it pretty vanilla. I don't think Coach Vigo would ever say that as far as like holding stuff back, but there's a reality to going into those games against Oregon. I've been in the locker room to go play against Kansas State, Michigan State, all of those outfits, and you go into them understanding that like you're hoping to come out some moral victories, understanding maybe you shock the world, but it's not really all that likely. It's going to be a pretty basic game plan. And we know that our season really gets rolling, the next week. So I would bet that they've held on to some things, both offensively and defensively, knowing that they got a heavyweight bout on Saturday night.
Well, thanks so much for listening to the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to both the podcast and all your various podcast hosted networks and to the YouTube channel as well. Thanks to our great partners, including Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan Miller and Coburn are ace attorneys, each with different expertise. Paul Ryan, the master when it comes to DUIs. Angie Miller, excellent in medical malpractice. Abigail Coburn, federal drug charges. She's the one you want defending you. They can help in any and all sorts of criminal defense cases. They have a live answering service that's available 24 hours a day, 406-542-2233. You can also visit rmcattorneys.com. Ryan and Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. Let's hear from RMC right now. Tell me about the expansion. You have now 2 partners. Angie's been with you for a while, but now Abigail joins the team as well. Yeah. So just tell me about how this has all been going.
Really exciting about both of them, starting with Angie, who's came to us before she even started law school. And she's just developed into such an amazing attorney and person and friend, frankly. I can't be more happy with her and her results. She's such a hard worker and a fighter, and we're just so pleased to have her carry the torch into the future. And then with regard to Abigail, another great story. She had interned for our office when she was going to law school. And then after she graduated, she did other things. And then we were really fortunate. It was a chance meeting at the courthouse, and everything just came together. And the timing was right for her, and the timing was right for us to bring her on. And she's been amazing. She is such a tough attorney, and she takes on very, very difficult cases, and her results are amazing. And it's just a perfect fit for all of us.
Well, I'll give you my three silver linings coming out of the Oregon game. One, I thought Montana State's offensive and defensive lines were non-factors. I thought they were irrelevant in that game, and that's not going to be the case moving forward. So
Yeah.
you get a lot of juice by having the dudes that are the dudes of your team. Now, like Paul Brout looks like a tiny guy out there against Oregon. But he's not. Like he's a legitimately great All-American candidate defensive tackle at the FCS level. So that's just one example. I thought other three silver linings though. Taco Dollar's in line for a special season if he stays healthy. I mean, he looked like the best player on the field, even with Oregon at times. I think that when Neil Daly went out when he got hurt, I thought, uh-oh, because only Neil Daly and Bryce Grebe really have played in games.
Yep.
The biggest revelation of the entire thing was Cole Taylor. Cole Taylor, you
Yep.
can tell he's still developing in terms of like where to go. But I mean, this guy's fearless. I was so impressed with him. He is not scared to get his nose in there. I mean, he's had a couple huge hits. And I mean, he's only been playing linebacker for a couple years. He doesn't even know what he's doing yet, but his upside is tremendous. And then I thought when Takiula Kepa went out, I thought, okay, well, how are they going to do this? And then they moved Caden Dowler, and Dowler proved, okay, I can play free, I can play strong, I can play in the box. I thought he was their best player on Saturday. So I thought some good signs for the Montana State defense, even though they did, give up a bunch of points.
Yeah. We've seen that a lot. I think from these cat teams over the last 3 years, where they've had maybe some injuries here or there to some pretty relatively key positions, and they've done a really good job of handling it, specifically on the offensive line. We've just seen they just kind of plug and play, and that was a little bit more of the story. I mean, not that you want that against Oregon, but Burke Mastel, can't go. All of a sudden, you're sliding somebody over to center. You got Braden Zimmer, a redshirt freshman from Billings West, starting to tackle. Like it's challenging, but like that callus that's developed down
Yeah.
the line, you're all of a sudden they're getting some reps. Oh, you don't want to get guys hurt, obviously, but okay. And then now Cole Taylor, there he is. He's a big bodied CMR kid. Like he's got a lot of the physical tools. And now, oh well, look at that. We actually have now developed some depth. Hopefully, you get everybody back. That's kind of how depth is developed, either through some injuries or through, you know, structured rotations or a combination of both.
Right. And yeah, Braden Zimmer is the greatest example of this, right? I mean, he gets thrown in there at left tackle, and all of a sudden he's going against number 10. Mateo Yu is what I'm going to say. I don't want to butcher his last name because
Yep.
it's a Polynesian type name. But for those that don't know who this guy is, he's 6'5", 282 pounds. He was the number 19 recruit in the entire United States of America. In fact, the number one defensive end in America. He was first team All Big Ten last year as a sophomore. So, you know, again, you say Braden Zimmer, okay, here's how you graded out this game. You're never going to play against the guy that good again. So, you're going to have some confidence moving forward because even South Dakota State's defensive ends, who are really good, are going to look
Yep.
small and slow compared to that guy. So, I mean, that's the callus you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you don't want guys to get hurt, but it does establish depth and where you have it and sometimes where you don't. Um, but yeah, needless to say, we want those guys to come back. I don't know what you hear from in the secondary on the injury front there. I'm drawing a blank. Who's the safety you just mentioned?
Oh,
Taki. Thank you.
Taki Ula, yeah,
Yeah, and Danny's little brother. So
yeah.
hopefully you'll get Taki back. I know secondary was a little bit thin already, but um, yeah, they're going to be all hands on deck. This is a big game. I mean, South Dakota State coming into town. Uh, Gosh, they just play a physical brand of football. It's going to come down to the trenches again, Colter. It never changes. What does the offensive and defensive fronts look like? And can you control the line of scrimmage? Um, Quarterback wise, be interested to see those matchups as well. But I think it just comes down to uh, ball control. Make sure that you're having some explosive plays on offense, limiting them on defense. What is special teams going to have a factor? And then that turnover margin is going to be huge. But excited to be at home. That home field advantage is going to be good too.
Ryder here on the Big Sky Breakdown. Good to talk to you, buddy. We'll catch up this weekend. Probably see you there at Gold Rush. But either way, thanks for being here today.
You got it. Thanks, man.